Hello, it's Chloe Bruce here, the gas journalist. I've been talking in many videos now about my diagnosis of schizophrenia in the United Kingdom and some of the environmental factors that were involved and what it feels like to have these so-called psychotic ideas and how it works out longer term because it's been some decades now that I've been ill. I was diagnosed in my late 20s and I've described what I could only see as a horrific lack of support and a lack of understanding of the actual nature of the condition in many medical professionals. Today I want to talk about a slightly different issue, which is something I encountered during my career in journalism and various other places. And in academia, for example, I've had many different types of job. But I have noticed that even today, many senior positions seem to be occupied by a type of man. And I even remember reading a while back, I don't know if things have changed, I don't see that they have, on the Military Intelligence 6 website, that there seemed to be a press release about how women had lower salaries than men, consistently lower salaries. And they said that, as far as I remember and understand, I think it was not linked to the position held. It was the fact, it wasn't that they held the same position and had different salaries, it's that women weren't getting more senior positions and therefore they had lower salary on the whole. I'm not saying some women don't rise to the top, of course they do, but I wanted to talk about a phenomenon of a type of man who holds a position of power, and it's very difficult to describe, but it relates to a type of man who, I've got something to read, who are sort of always somehow connected to the secret services. And even at university, at least in my studies, I met 3 people claiming to be with the intelligence services. And I didn't know how to react. I had to keep it secret, of course. I didn't know why they were saying it. They didn't seem to want anything from me. They just sort of came up to me and said it. And I didn't really think anything. I'm quite a truthful person naturally myself. I don't actually see untruths in others very easily. And I'm not sure it was truthful. I don't really see why I would have to be burdened by that information. A spy can be beheaded, and I know they go abroad having said this. And if they're going around telling everyone that they're a spy, it's very difficult to see they won't come to some kind of harm or put others in danger. And so finally, only recently, I decided to write both MI5 and MI6 have a online report, secret report situation where you can report. You can't report, I think, anonymously, but you can report to someone you would assume would keep secrets. And I like to think it's machine read and machine analysed without actually needing manpower for the job of analysing this situation. So I finally told them, and I feel relieved, because at the very least they should say that it's a silly thing to have done. I don't know really why they had to tell me all about their secret service jobs, but anyway, that's what they did. But anyway, I will read this. It relates to the male in Britain, let's say the United Kingdom, and how they behave in their professional capacity. So there's a type of man in the United Kingdom that's sort of in, as the case may be, because they make out they know an awful lot about the secret services. And that can only be they're connected to people who are spies without necessarily directly saying, I'm a spy. I'm not talking about the people that actually told me this directly. I'm talking about a type of person who likes to hint about all this intelligence gathering they're able to do. Some of them have so little on their published CVs, together with a photo showing what they might think, what I think they think is sort of right look for the part, that I can only assume that they've done some kind of secret work or hinting at some kind of secret work. They're literally malnourished CVs. They have so little to say about their actual degree and career. I don't know why anyone would hire them. But anyway, they are sort of a type of consultant usually. And sometimes they might have links to academia. Now, so about these CVs, so I'm sometimes aware of the difference between, I'm sometimes myself, even though I've done academic work, I'm aware of the difference between a think tank in the UK and a sort of consultancy business. These sort of men talk of being connected enough to understand how the secret services operate. For example, it might have been MI6 that burgled you or did that to you. Some also seem to know the names and faces of CIA operatives, according to their online discussions. These men seem to be blessed with some kind of deed to a property that puts them miles ahead from the rest of society. And sometimes they invite you into their properties and make you meet their wife even when you don't want to. their property, the properties they live in seem to make them very important enough, however, to sidle up to others like me for their to try and extract from them their long, hard-earned information. In other words, they sort of creep up and say, I understand you sort of, what is this all about X, Y, Z? And you're quite vulnerable and quite intimidated, and you sort of give away information when you've actually spent months even gathering it, and you don't get any money or anything like that, anything extra. Anyway, some people behave as though they have a mental health coverage just by becoming either a doctor or owning a home. But these homeowners, sorry, it's just been my handwriting, but these homeowners didn't necessarily put a significant amount of work effort in at all. In other words, these consultants, you can't see, they talk all about this illustrious work they do, but you never know really what they do or what their background is. And you get the impression that they rely on staff to actually do or others to do all the information gathering for you. Nothing they say to you is particularly useful in terms of a two-way conversation. For example, if they were, say, to have bought their former council property outright by sort of miraculously coming into the money to do it, then they can afford to live on very little and therefore might seem extremely successful because they've somehow either got a council house or council flat or they've moved up the ladder a bit. But anyway, they can live on very little at that point, even say working tax credits whilst taking on this consultancy business. But they don't really discuss that necessarily. It's just that this part of the deal, it's just they can live on extremely little, and I don't really understand how they do it. I don't understand where all this money comes from for certain people. Some people just don't add up in terms of what they could possibly have achieved in terms of property they've got vis-a-vis their CV. It's not that they don't say that, they say they're brilliant at it all the time, they say I'm the best and things. That's why I've got it. But what they don't do is necessarily discuss their CV with you. So they're sort of totally special and involved and that kind of thing. Anyway, some of these people can't even see their own limitations. And when they are in the public eye and have to do something actively public, like give a lecture or publish an article, they don't necessarily stand up to the success they say they've had. I actually found myself in some kind of twilight zone when I heard one such man announce the most bizarre quantitative analysis of natural gas I've ever heard. I'm not especially developed in my mathematical knowledge, but even I can see it was just the most bizarre thing. I actually kept this evidence because every time I feel mad thinking about it, I have to look and think, yes, I am right. I've got a good memory, but I sometimes doubt it. It's just so absurd what some people do and say that you actually start to doubt your own knowledge and experience. Anyway, what I want to say is just, could I please ask all these men in these high-level jobs, please just publish a more comprehensive CV, please, to show the expertise you have for arriving at the kind of interpretation you have of certain issues. Say how you arrived at this. You don't have to say all your methods, but can you at least on your CV why you'd have the qualification to say those things? And as for me, as a woman, to these men, I was useful enough to be demoted to the role of admin, whilst at the same time having to still do my former journalism job. In other words, they didn't want just my journalism, they wanted me to have all the demotion of being admin. Now, I'm not saying admin don't more for me and aren't more successful. I should imagine these days it takes an awful lot of skill, especially computer skills. It's literally just the most mundane photocopying they made me do, day in, day out. I had to work maybe 4 to 5 extra hours a day to get my journalistic writing done. And they gave me a promotion and a salary increase, but it was never part of my contract to actually become a secretary. And I don't think it was compatible with what they were saying to the Inland Revenue anyway, about the role I had. Anyway, I wasn't getting their salary, was I? And I don't think I ever will, quite frankly. And yes, I even know it's not just these consultancy men. When I was actually, I've told you about my hospitalisation, some of them under section because of mental health problems that I've just discussed. And one psychiatrist was sort of fancying himself as one of these men. And I said to him, one of my psychotic ideas, I thought he might be linked to the FCO, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, because there was a lot of chit-chat in the hospital about the Foreign and Commonwealth Offices. And I said to him, I even thought you were with the FCO. And he said, how do you know I'm not with the Foreign and Commonwealth Foreign Office? And I have to say, his CV, he's never even necessarily had much foreign travel. It's actually about foreign work. It's not necessarily a doctor who would necessarily be attached to the Foreign Office if they don't actually go abroad and do the actual work for it and do the language study and all those kinds of things. I think it's unfeasible. What you actually say, if someone asks you a question and you think they're psychotic, and it's a question, not a statement, Obviously, if they make a statement, you just have to give them the benefit of the doubt that it has some reality to it. But if they actually say, I thought you were at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, or ask you a question of that kind, it's sort of a question, please just say the truth, just tell the truth to someone psychotic. If they cannot, because you remember afterwards, and you think, why would they have lied at that point? Well, the answer should have been, no, of course, I did not work for the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. There's literally no evidence that this person did. I know their history quite well. They literally couldn't have worked there. Just say, no, I didn't, and that will clear up the issue in this confused person's mind. It didn't come from nowhere, this idea. Anyway, some of these in men say, oh, you must have written your doctoral thesis before you even enrolled. And some of them even say, oh, I knew all about it. I knew everything you wrote, more or less, nearly everything you wrote before you even published it. And the problem with this is, although it's partly historical, it's a contemporary governmental issue I was discussing, and not the events I wrote about and discussed hadn't even happened yet. So I don't really know how they knew it all, and I knew it all before I'd written it. Anyway, let me just see if there's anything else I can say. Yes, and if they had known it all before, it's such an important topic, this natural gas politics. If they'd known it, it would have been urgent as part of their contract and their work to get this published as soon as possible with all the empirical facts and evidence that you can possibly muster. You can't just leave it for other people to do and then say, oh, I knew it all. It's just bizarre. They can't even explain why they didn't publish it at that point, the whole thesis, if they knew it all themselves. Anyway, that's my little bitter gripe. It's understandable, because at the end of the day, the money you earned is not just for accommodation. It is for food and drink and travel, and for you to stay independent of men. And they lap up all this attention from women desperate to have the security of a partner with a good income. And I'm a very independent person. I can't say I wanted to be without a relationship that was substantial for me. But it's just something I can't live without someone else anyway. And they're actually putting women in a position where they'll be homeless if they don't have a partner or a good friend to live with. And this is, you can't force a woman to live with a man just because of a salary discrepancy of this type. Thank you.